masculinity isn't toxic. It's not toxic. There's nothing toxic about masculinity at all. There's toxic people and there's toxic behavior, but masculinity in and of itself, there's nothing toxic about it. It's misused or misunderstood. And I tell you what, in a fire, your house is on fire. You want a raging feminist to come and save you, or do you want a toxically masculine, big buff firefighter with a sweet ass mustache coming in? I want a toxic masculine firefighter every time. True masculinity is about responsibility, strength under control, and protection. It's not necessarily aggression or dominance by itself. Like, okay, aggression and dominance are masculine traits, okay, but by itself, it's not necessarily aggression. And you can be assertive without being aggressive, okay? You can be assertive without being aggressive. So society often labels masculine traits as toxic because it confuses power with abuse and confidence with arrogance. But you know what? Chicks love that arrogance. They love it. you got to have a little bit of arrogance in there. They kind of dig that stuff. Abuse, yeah, we can do without that. But I was going back and forth with some chick in the comments. I was talking about the lie, the egalitarian equal partnership in a relationship and how it doesn't really work, right? It doesn't really work. I had a clip about that. I probably got 1,000 clips about that. But she was arguing, saying, no, that's the ideal relationship and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah, ideal on paper. It just doesn't work that way, right? And so women naturally want to follow a man's lead. So that means that requires you to be a little bit dominant. It requires you to tell her what to do a little bit. You know what I mean? And so that dominance is attractive. Women are wired to respond well to it. Okay. And so, but feminism has twisted that into abuse, right? Oh, you're a controlling, abusive man if you're dominant and you set the tone and lead in your relationship. It's 1984. Twisting words around. It's bullshit. Stoicism taught warriors to master emotion, not necessarily suppress it. So a lot of stuff that we talk about when we talk about having emotional control as a part of having a strong mental frame, you know, not getting so riled up with people. Man, I had a guy talking mad shit about Nurse Chick on X last night. I shared it with the guys in Wolfpack, right? The guy was trying to get under my skin by attacking my girlfriend, you know, which is a pretty common tactic. And man, Paul of 30 years ago would have lost his shit. I would have completely entered this guy's frame and got all emotional and started like a fight on the internet. But I've been working on my mental frame for so long now that kind of stuff, I see it for what it is. And I don't get drawn into that guy's mental frame. And so like all the stuff that he was saying, I was like, you know, egging him on. And then when I went and looked at his profile, I realized who he was. There's this crazy guy. I'm pretty sure he used to go by the handle of Moose on Rolo's channel, and he likes to troll all the Rule Zero guys like a psychopath, right? And so what he'll do is he'll troll everybody until they all block him, and then he creates a new account and keeps doing it. And so whenever I go to someone's profile who's saying a lot of the same shit, you know, I'll go and look at their profile. If they created that profile this month, it's that guy. It's always, so it's an immediate block, right? You know, normally I just mute people on X because let them say their stupid shit into the wind, and I don't care. But if it's like a crazy psychopath, like immediate block. Anyway, but I don't get drawn into their shit. You know, I don't get all emotional about some of the hateful stuff that they say. People call me bald literally 50 times a week. You know, if I really let that stuff bother me, like I wouldn't even have a podcast anymore, right? And you know what the funny thing is that female content creators are really, they really struggle with this. They really struggle with this because I guarantee you like 99.99% of the female content creators that are talking about, you know, intersexual dynamics and stuff like that, they don't have a concept of working on their mental frame and having emotional control. That's not what women do. and so a lot of them, when I talk to them, they have a really hard time. They have a really hard time with the hate comments and stuff like that. And it really emotionally drains them, and they got to take time off and all this kind of stuff. It's like, I don't care. Yeah. Call me bald, bro. Like you just think I don't know I'm bald? It takes me like 10 minutes in the morning shaved this fucker. Like I'm pretty well aware. Thank you very much there. Anyway, so Stoicism teaches that emotions are signals, not commands, right? So a warrior observes them without being ruled by them. So your emotions will come up, right? And I'm not like an emotionless being. So yeah, when people say negative things about my girlfriend, my initial gut instinct is to get pissed off, right? But then I sort of observe that and I'm like, what is this emotion telling me, right? And it gives me a second to respond instead of react. And anytime you see someone just like putting hateful shit in comments and like they're going off on tangents, calling you bald or whatever like that, it's because they have no emotional control and they are reacting to you, right? A lot of times I am kind of a bully and I will go into like incel and MGTOW posts and all over incels and MGTOWs. That's because none of them have any mental frame, right? And so if you do that sort of thing, a lot of times you shake that hornet's nest. Like 2 or 3 guys will realize what you're doing and go, okay, what's this guy all about, right? And then they'll tune into the content and actually improve their lives instead of sitting around commiserating about how life sucks and it's so hard to talk to girls, But anyway, you have emotions, but you don't let them dictate your life. You're not trying to react all the time. You're trying to think about what's this emotion telling you and then have a more logical response as best as you can. Okay. We're not all perfect. And ancient warriors practiced, I'm going to mess this up, premeditatio malorum, or preparing for adversity, right? So to respond with clarity instead of panic. And this is paramount in a wartime situation, right? If you're in battle and you're freaking out and you're emotionally shutting down and your fight, flight, or freeze response is to freeze and sit there and go, right? You're going to die. You're going to die, right? This is why like Marines and soldiers like train relentlessly, because in a situation like that, you're going to fall back to your muscle memory. Okay. And that's why they train so much, so that they react on instinct. They make it a part of their paradigm. They react on instinct as opposed to emotion, and they might actually survive, right? So if you mentally prepare for adversity, you're less likely to panic in a situation. And I talk about it in Everything I Wish I Knew when I was 18. I tell my kids this, like, if you panic, you die, right? So when they're like 3 years old and they got the herbs because they're so emotionally, I say, what, you're panicking right now. What happens when you panic? You die, Dad. That's what I used to tell them, right? But I was trying to get that in their paradigm so that when they're adults, when shit hits the fan, like they don't freak out and panic, right? They can respond calmly and possibly survive a negative situation. If you panic, you die. Remember that. And mastery comes from choosing your reaction, not denying the feeling, right? So Stoics felt deeply but acted deliberately. Okay. So it's not about suppressing that emotion. It's about controlling it and then using it when it's the right time. You know what I mean? Like we're not emotionless robots in this space. Okay. You just got to understand there's a time and a place, right? Your girl ain't it. She's never been it. Women don't care about men's struggles. Okay. So save it for your boys or your coach or something. Take that shit out in the gym. The lie of the nice guy and why it's the modern man's prison. So nice guys, and we just, like I said before, Dr. Robert Glover says we have multiple generations of nice guys now. It's like the number one thing that's keeping men from having healthy relationships. It's keeping them from leveling up in life. Nice guys, right? But they seek approval by avoiding conflict, which leads to resentment, weak boundaries, and being overlooked. They confuse being agreeable with being virtuous, but true respect is earned through honesty and strength, not people pleasing. Yes, exactly. Covert contracts, doing something to get something. One of the Wolfpack brothers, he was a new guy. He recently dumped a girl that he had been seeing for a while. And one of the things that he posted in there was that he was giving all this stuff to her and paying for all this stuff. And she didn't appreciate it and whatever. And he was tired of the disrespect or whatever. And I was like, bro, you got to get rid of those covert contracts. You're doing all this nice stuff, expecting something in return. That's a fucking covert contract. You gotta let that kind of shit go. Doing all this nice guy stuff, buying girls flowers, buying them chocolates, taking them to fancy dinners all the time, like all that kind of stuff, you're trying to get something out of them. You're expecting a certain response from them. And when they don't do that, it builds resentment. You got to let that kind of shit go.
New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Subscribe now.